Hi, Phil Aston here from Aston magazine. In this review, we're looking at a box set that Record Collector magazine said was the best reissue of 2021. And that is the box set by American singer-songwriter Laura Nyro, and it's called American Dreamer. Now, it's not a box set that I have myself, but luckily Chris Wright, who contributes a lot to this channel and to the website, has a copy. It's only available on vinyl. Maybe there'll be a CD box set soon, or this year perhaps, I don't know. But here's Chris, and he's going to give a very detailed view of what you get in the vinyl box set.
Hi there, Chris here, and today we're going to take a look at the Laura Nyro American Dreamer 8LP box set from Madfish, which has just been released and I think is well worth the attention of anyone who's either a serious Laura fan or, probably even more important, wants to get into her music, because this is a great intro. The box set itself comes in this rather nice slipcase. It's a bit oversized to fit in a lot of racks, though, I will say that. But so you might ultimately want to take these LPs out and file them separately. I'm undecided on whether I'm going to do that yet or not. Spans the period from 67 through to 78. Accounting for 7 studio albums, plus an LP of rarities, demos and things, and live recordings, none of which have been unreleased before, so there's nothing here that's new, but I think the presentation is great. It's a fabulous opportunity to freshen your collection if you've got old LPs, and of course if you've not got any, then it's a brilliant opportunity. One or two, in fact more than one or two people have said to me, why isn't this on CD? And they're a bit puzzled by that, and I joined the club because I am too. I guess there must be a reason. Obviously this is licensed from Sony, so I'm guessing that there's some kind of perhaps plan ahead that Sony's going to do something. I don't know, that may not be the case, but whatever. It seemed a bit odd that there wasn't a CD release in line with this as well, because I think that would really have been popular. Laura's CDs haven't been reissued since 2002, and although those are great reissues, it's a little bit surprising perhaps that this is just an LP package, particularly as Madfish tends to focus more on CD than they do LP. But anyway, we'll get into this album or this box set now and take a look at the LPs. Okay, let's talk about the LPs themselves. And I'd like to start, before I look at More Than a New Discovery, Laura's 1967 debut album, I'd like to talk a bit about what you're getting here in terms of the vinyl itself, because I think that's a very important thing for collectors and audiophiles. What exactly are we getting here? There's been a bit of talk on the forums about, a bit of mystery in fact, as to what these albums actually contain, and in terms of provenance. And what I mean by that is, where were they mastered? We know who mastered them, but we don't know where they were mastered. We don't know if they were mastered from digital files or analog. And these things are little mysteries that, collectors like to have answered. And Madfish haven't done a terrific job of that, if I'm honest. But does it matter a great deal? Well, they sound great, these LPs. They're quiet. They're not on 180-gram vinyl. I'd say that's just a standard weight vinyl. Again, it doesn't matter because they sound great. They've done a super job. And they've housed them in these nice plastic sleeves, plastic lined sleeves, and that's fine. I think they're perfect for keeping in that. I always clean all my records with a vacuum record cleaner before I play them. And these sound fantastic. The mastering is, I would say, erring on the side of quite smooth sound, but I think that's fine. I think that's basically a mastering decision. I quite like it. The Laura's voice and the way she was mic'd seemed to always have an edge to it. So, apart from maybe the very last albums, and so I think there's possibly an attempt there to make things a bit smoother, which is actually not a bad decision. Some people will like that, some won't. You'll never please everybody with however you master something. So anyway, that sort of sets the scene. They have this textured cover here, which is rather nice. And they kind of reproduction covers, reproduction labels. and they're not absolute one-for-one reproductions, but I don't think that matters. It's just a bit of artistic license with the Madfish branding on the on things like the labels, and that's fine. That's no problem. And so here's her sort of 1967 debut album, which caused a bit of a splash around the time of the Monterey Pop Festival, which didn't go very well for Laura because she was not really the sort of in vogue style of artist at that festival. But on the back of that, in 1968, we had Eli and the 13th Confession, which is arguably her most well-known work, and in fact we have a nice little insert here with lyrics, and there's a few of these dotted about. If they were in the originals, you'll find them in these LPs, and they've kind of tried to replicate the Columbia label here to some extent. I'm not mad on the way they've done that, but I think it's using a bit of artistic license, so I'd much prefer if it was a one-for-one likeness, and I'll show you in a little while where that's been done on a previous reissue, which I rather like. So that's but again, this sounds great. It sounds absolutely fantastic, so I've got no complaints. New York Tendaberry, her 1970 album is probably 1969, what am I talking about? 1969 album is my favourite of Laura's. I'd probably say it's just about my favourite LP, and everybody knows that in the Nyro Spinning group knows how much I love Joni Mitchell. I wouldn't put any Joni Mitchell album above this one. This one is just a work of sublime musical art to me, and the emotion that she brings into this. This is the album I would recommend above all others, and it's done a fantastic job with it. Again, it has this textured cover. And I wanted at this point to bring in a sort of a reissue from fairly recent past, because I suppose the argument is, you've heard me say, well, the artwork isn't necessarily one-for-one accurate. Are we looking at digital files? I don't honestly know if we are or we aren't. I'm assuming that we are. I'm sure that Madfish would want to brag about having a completely analogue situation with these. That happened in 2017 with this now very, very hard to find and actually very, very expensive LP that was reissued on the Analog Spark label. Looks like Analog Spark is no more, but they were a real no-compromise label that existed out of New York for a little while. And here we got a 180-gram LP, and this was actually mastered by Ryan Smith at Sterling. And so it's got impeccable credentials. His initials and everything are on the dead wax. This was all analog from beginning to end. Does it sound better? You are going to ask me immediately. Does it sound better than the Madfish New York Tendaberry? Well, I'm going to be completely honest and say, unfortunately, the Madfish one doesn't have the same fidelity. But then, to be fair, that's because the Analog Spark version has a very crisp edge to it. And that's kind of how I like Laura to be. That's how it is on the 2002 reissue CDs. They also did this rather nice booklet situation in the Analog Spark reissue. They kind of attempted this here with a sort of poster situation in the new one. I don't think it's as nicely done. The repro and stuff I don't think it's quite as good, but I don't know how much that matters really. I mean, we're really buying this to listen to the music, aren't we? I suppose we're buying it for the whole package, to be fair, aren't we? Let's be honest about that. So but the trouble is that, this, again, there's a smoothness to this mastering, which I actually rather like. Do I prefer it to the Analog Spark? No. Will I be playing this one when it comes in rotation if I'm playing the box set through? Probably not, if I'm honest with you. I will probably stick with the Analog Spark. The same for Eli, probably too. But heck, we're looking here at a box that gives people a chance to have a pretty complete, minus about 3 studio albums produced from 84 through 93, and then a posthumous one in 2001. We're looking at a great opportunity at a really quite reasonable cost. I mean, this is about, I believe it's about £160 in the UK. And that's really quite a reasonable price for what we have here. I've got no complaints at all about the package and the deal. I think they've done a pretty stellar job for when you consider that, if they went to the absolute extremes of everything, how much more would that have cost? What would be the weight of it and all the rest of it? So I think they've done a great job considering that it's 8 LPs and, you've got to probably compromise somewhere. Christmas and the Beads of Sweat is one of my very favourite Laura albums. In fact, perhaps my favourite track is Been on a Train, which is here. And you can see they've reproduced the album quite beautifully. In fact, what's really nice about this one is that I have the original pressing of this, and this has a textured cover as well as this one does. And I think they've done a super job here. Again, it's just beautifully, beautifully well done. And Gonna Take a Miracle. This was really a fabulous album from that great year of 1971. This was Laura's soulful voice coming out in full bloom, really, with Patti LaBelle and her colleagues. Album recorded in Philadelphia. I play this one a lot, either as an original album or CD. Again, you'd probably ask, well, is the original album better? Well, it's very hard to find an original album without a single crackle or pop after all this time. So this is beautifully done. So actually, I think this is a bit of an upgrade, really, on the original. I'd say that as well as with Christmas and the Beads of Sweat as well. Then we move further along, and Laura took a bit of a hiatus, actually, when she was getting married, having kids and so forth, and getting divorced too, it must be said. She had a very short life, did Laura, so, we're not looking at a great deal of albums, but this is the collection between 67 and 78. And Smile is a great album. It's a smoother, not only smoother in reproduction, but smoother in style. It's a very laid-back album. I really love this, and it's fantastic. Same goes for Nested, which is probably of the later albums. I think I'd probably rate this about third or fourth in all of her albums. I really love how this does go together. And this was at a time when she was singing about having a child and relationships and things, and what was going on in her life at the time. She'd moved out of the city into the country, and the kind of more laid-back style of this sort of really shows, I think. And but it's again, splendid album, and well worth the entry price. And then we come to Rarities and Live Recordings, which it is the Rarities, but it's nothing that hasn't been reproduced before. There's quite a lot of live stuff here, which is from the Fillmore East concert of May the 30th, 1971, which was released previously on the Spread Your Wings and Fly CD, which if you don't have, I thoroughly recommend. But this is really a nice approach, and I would say that it's a nice thing to have. It balances it up. It gives, some extra interest to the whole box set, and I think worth introducing this. Would I have preferred to have lost this and had maybe heavier vinyl? I actually don't think so. I think they've just done a great job here. So those are the LPs. What I'm going to do in a second is talk about the absolutely fabulous booklet that comes with it. As you'd hope, with Madfish having such a great reputation for their box sets, there's a fantastic booklet that comes with American Dreamer, and it's my pleasure to take you through that now. It's just a really nice account of Laura's life, and what's really significant are the amount of artists that chip in and have something to say about Laura. Elton John here. And what did Elton say? I used to listen to Laura in the late 60s, and she influenced my music and writing so much. She was an amazing writer in a sense that she was the first writer I'd heard who didn't follow verse, chorus, middle eight, verse, chorus, middle eight structures. She changed tempos, and there were no rules for her, which was absolutely spellbinding. And really, the eulogies continue throughout this rather nice booklet, which is beautifully illustrated, has a great essay in it by Pete Doggett and other contributors. Todd Rundgren has plenty to say in it. It's a fantastic thing, and there's quite a lot of images of lyric sheets that she wrote. Some really nice photos in it. It's a lovely, lovely setting, and I really, really think this is what extends the value of this sort of box set. I'm sure you'll agree with me that when it comes to these box sets, it's these extra materials that are just so important to the whole. I mean, there's a beautiful poster here, and you can see it's extensive text. So, and there's a nice article here, I think around the New York Tendaberry era. Here she is with Miles Davis, look. So, and Laura had this just amazing impact on so many artists. And I think it's fair to say that, of all those artists of that era, she probably had the most impact, really, on them. It's amazing. And maybe that wasn't quite the same for the public. She certainly was popular, but not as popular as with the music biz, where she was just had this amazing reputation. And this booklet is just beautifully illustrated, and I think it's well worth. Again, we're talking about, well, is it the best remaster I've ever heard, and all this stuff. Whether it is or not doesn't really matter anywhere near as much as is it a great quality. Is it a great quality booklet? And I think that it is. And you get some detail here as to what the tracks are, and how it was all produced by Madfish. At the end here is very odd. They got these kind of blank pages here, which seems odd to me. Why can't they fill those with some more photos? I'm not sure, but that's nitpicking, and I don't really want to nitpick because, as I say, this is just a fabulous, fabulous book with some great photos in it. So well worth it.
Well, thank you very much, Chris. That was American Dreamer by Laura Nyro, a vinyl box set. And as I say, it was voted #1 by Record Collector magazine as the best reissue of the whole of that year. And hopefully you've seen now, with Chris going through it, that you can see whether it's something that you like in your collection, or maybe you'd wait to see if there will be a CD version. But thanks very much for watching. Thank you for Chris for doing that video. And thank you for subscribing and sharing and liking, and I shall see you on my next video.